Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. On today's show, the Obama coalition. What will centrist or more right-wing Democrats do with the Trump coalition? Will they fight back or will they be civil? We'll take a little debate going on there. Also, why the Democrats should definitely not be in an all-hands-on-deck scramble to save Bob Menendez in New Jersey, but being the Democrats, they are. Also, warning signs for the GOP in our midterm update. And finally, the establishment media gets a new challenger. That's on today's show. Yeah, and I got a lot of stuff to get to with that. That's going to be a lot of fun to see and to talk about. Because we got a great show for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday after Halloween. Hopefully you're not too tired. We're trying to make this show quick because yesterday's show was quite long, and I don't want to do that again. It was about 40 minutes. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so, a very interesting article. So, I want to start today's show with an article in the New York Times from Stead Herndon, and he is writing about random guy, Obama voter, John Tollsby. He says he wants to be clear, and he loves Barack. Let me be clear. I love Barack Obama. So yeah, Tollsby is a small business owner. He voted for the former president twice, and after never participating in elections in his life, he now follows politics incessantly, an obsession he credits to Obama's influence. He started a t-shirt company that called "You Can't Trump God" after Mr. Obama left office because Trump's election sent him into a downward emotional spiral that only religion could counteract, which is pretty incredible. He turned to religion after Trump because of Trump. Like, Trump is literally turning people to religion. And by the way, this guy, he probably needs to get his stuff together. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I don't know his situation. Maybe he had a tough time with small business under Trump. I don't know. He says it's a different world we're living in, and we need something different, Tollsby said in reaction to Obama's recent rallies. He wondered if his political hero's signature idealism had a place in today's flame-throwing political climate. It's a different world we're living in, and that's true. And I saw this kind of similar thing. It's a different world we're living in. When Jon Stewart recently, he's been in the news, he came out and he said something about why journalists are attacking Trump and all that stuff. I think what he said was, President Trump has been able to appeal to journalists' own narcissism by attacking them. They take it personally, and now he's changed the conversation to, none of his policies are silly or not working, it's all about the fight. Which is a kind of interesting view. I think it's kind of a little bit surface deep, but it's not very, it's just limited to Trump. And the broader perspective, we're going to get later in the show from Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. He had a very interesting discussion with this. I want to play back to and react. And the funny thing is, he was talking to a establishment media reporter while he was doing it. So that was a lot of fun. And it was just so much smugness. It was incredible. As Obama has crisscrossed the country in support of Democratic candidates, nerves are rattling among some members of the coalition that fueled his historic rise from backbencher in the Illinois State House to America's first black president. A week of domestic terrorism has shocked the political system and other 2018 elections, and while Obama's speeches this election cycle have largely stuck with the trademark themes of idealism and hope, and some supporters wondering if they're witnessing a living time capsule from a bygone era of civil political rhetoric. And I think it's actually very interesting because what's happened after the Trump election and what's happened while Obama was out paddle surfing with Richard Branson, what he was saying was, and what was really going on was the scales were falling from Americans' eyes. And they were saying, we cannot be civil anymore. The right wing has not been civil for a very long time. Their trigger was when Obama got elected. That's when the scales fell from their eyes. They're like, we cannot be civil anymore. There's a black president in office. We are absolutely screwed. In the end, then they dropped all civility. Then they started attacking George Soros. Then they started attacking crazy people. Just absolutely going crazy. The Tea Party movement came, everything else, 2009, 2010. And that's when the Republicans lost their sense of civility. And now the Democrats are losing it. And they're fighting, learning to fight fire with fire. They're kind of it's a lot harder. The skills are still kind of crusty on the sides. There's still some creeping back in of these scales of civility. And Obama was kind of really helping with it. But again, I think if it's necessary to fight with the Republicans, you have to match them in every single way. You got to fight fire with fire, because the Republicans are bringing fire. You cannot bring civility, otherwise you're just going to get burned, and you're going to get burned like what Barack Obama has been doing, while the Republicans have been civil, which is pretty much nothing. And the Republicans have been uncivil, and we lost so much in our state legislature. We lost the House, we lost the Senate, we lost governorships. It's just been crazy. So yeah. While Obama does remain the top Democratic surrogate in the country, and he will be lending his star power to some of the most closely watched campaigns during during the campaign's final weeks, he's going to be visiting Andrew Gillum, Stacey Abrams, and Joe Donnelly in Florida, Georgia, and Indiana, respectively. But the election of Trump has tested the former president's theory of measured change. His advisors acknowledge they want it now, and that to me is that's the right movement. And people are just not going to be fans, understandably, of measured change. I mean, look where it's getting them. It's just not getting them anywhere, and people are losing with the measured change approach. Like, that's just the way it is. No one is getting a solid, just not working for a lot of people. It just really isn't. Yeah, and so Obama's advisors say the former presidency is resisting Trump and inspiring voters as a false choice. They point to his speeches this summer that broke with long-held tradition of heavily criticizing Trump, even if he rarely mentioned him by name. Still, like Tollsby, some supporters of Obama can come to want a fist, not a handshake, an era when generation progressives are hitting back at Trump harder than the former president usually does. So, Tollsby is out there for aggression, and trust me, I know we can find some of that. You can find some of that in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and a lot of people on the left who just so happen to not be in elected office. That's where you're going to find a lot of the most strongest resistance to Trump, and the most policy-based, which is very important. So, for a long time, older generations have told us this is how politics is supposed to work, but we're pushing back on that, says Gabrielle Lawrence, who's a 20-year-old who went to see Obama with two friends in Milwaukee. She was 10 when he was first elected president. They took a moment to list their favorite politicians: Jason Kander, the former Missouri Secretary of State. I don't really know who that is. Sharice Davis of Kansas, who could become the first former mixed martial arts fighter, who could be a first lesbian Native American to be elected to Congress. It's pretty cool. So it's a pretty big milestone there for Sharice Davids of Kansas, and of course Beto O'Rourke. So like they're not really, doesn't seem like they're that progressive, but still. I mean, Beto O'Rourke's pretty progressive, but so I shouldn't judge. But like they seem to want definitely some change here. And the thing is interesting, Obama did make a cut, and that's again not surprising because Obama's not in politics anymore. Like he's not someone who's part of the future. He's not someone who's part of the Democratic future. He's someone who's part of the Democratic past. He's a kind of a harkening from an era where the Democrats, like while they had Obama in office, they were not very successful at all electorally, and they had policies that like Trump, like it was not a good time. Like the end of Obama is largely what stays the people, and it was just really not a good time for the Democrats, or just electorally, it was not a good time for the Democrats. And while Obama could have been an alright president, which he was definitely a pretty solid president, it's very disturbing to see that so many people view him as part of the Democratic future, because he's just not part of the Democratic future. While there should be more like people out there stumping for, like you could have more people out there stumping for him, it's going to be tough, and to get this all sorted out straight and put on the straight and narrow. So there has to be a reframing of how we go about making change, said Latasha Brown, who's an organizer and co-founder of Black Voters Matter. She said, although she respected Obama, particularly because he was a former community organizer, she had come to see him as a constitutionalist in a political era that requires more radical action. And I think she's right about that. Like, Obama is just, like, he's part of a bygone, he's part of the future. Not a bygone era of civility, but a bygone era of losing. That's the important thing to remember. I'm not a very big believer in civility in this time. Sure, obviously I'm against violence, anything like that. But when it comes to getting when it comes to playing nice is what I'm saying. When it comes to playing nice, I think that's just not something you can do if you want to have any sort of success in today's political system. So yeah, enough is enough, Brown said. She said, we're not going to repeat the same cycle of people telling us to wait and vote to prove our allegiance to this country. The divide could be a preview of future fights among liberals in the coming years as voters search for Obama's successor as unifying the face of the Democratic Party. The questions over what tone is best to oppose Trump will be front and center, just as critical issues of the policy or ideology. All right, so I just do want to end on this little note here. The Democratic base is already unified. It's behind the progressive left. If you look at polls, among the Democrats, there is strong support for almost every issue that they support because they are the only side, the Democratic left versus the more right-wing left, that actually has partisan, and actually has a policy base. The Democratic right is for not rocking the boat. The corporate Democrat, they're for not rocking the boat. They're for keeping things as they are because they are mostly, they're the ones in power. They're the ones who have the benefits. They're the ones who are set for life, if you will, and they don't want that to change, and that's the way things are at this point. All right, so now we head to New Jersey for a more specific race. It was a rare convergence of New Jersey's governor and its two senators for an official event meant to be about policy, not politics. But as Governor Murphy helped announced new programs to help owners recover from Hurricane Sandy, there was little doubt why the state's top Democrats had convened so soon before Election Day. He said, Murphy said, I do not know where we would be. This was the opening quote about this big event that they're going to. Philip Murphy. He said, I do not know where we would be without Senator Bob Menendez. I'll tell you. Not next to Senator Bob Menendez because he's very, very sketchy. I'm not going to go out there and say he screwed up, but it's very tough. It's very tough. It's a very tough look. The past few years have been a very tough look for my guy, Bob Menendez. He said, Cory Booker offered his own lofty praise as well. He says, when I look to the future of the state, we need Bob Menendez. Do we now? Really, do we now? Let's see Bob on the issues here. Bob Menendez, because if you don't know, we talked about this with James at the beginning of the week. Bob Menendez was really kind of a right-winger, not a right-winger, but he was very much in corruption. He was very much in trouble with corruption, and things were very sketchy, just to say the least. Flag request, okay. Help Center. Does he have a campaign website? Because I want to see where he stands. Bob. All right, we don't have a. Yeah, he's been in Senate since 1972, so it looks like his future is pretty much already. At least he's been in politics since 1972, which is pretty crazy. So Menendez for Senate. This is his website. 2018 issues. Let's see Bob on the issues. It says, as a product of public schools, federal loans, and grants. Supports that, creating good paying jobs, healthcare, affordable healthcare for all. Let's see, said no to a plan that hike premiums. Does not seem to be really the best for healthcare. He's not a very progressive guy. He's definitely more of a centrist who has also some serious corruption allegations against him. It's going to be pretty tough. In New Jersey, many of the suburbanites who are backing Democratic House candidates from Republican-leaning areas are still uneasy about Menendez after his 2017 federal corruption trial, which ended in a mistrial. After these voters have been reminded of that case most every day, but for a month-long $30 million ad campaign financed by his Republican opponent, Bob Menendez's Bob Huggin, who is a wealthy former pharmaceutical executive. He's definitely very popular again among the moderates, let's just say, because he's pro. If you remember James saying he's pro-life, he's pro-marriage equality and all that. So he's very much in trouble.